It looks petty. It looks like you're being a sore loser. It looks like you are making
Imagine being the most talked about rookie in WNBA history, drawing in millions of new fans only to be repeatedly hit and bullied on the court with no action taken by the refs. That's exactly what Caitlin Clark experienced during her rookie season, from Jackie Young slapping her in the face to Alyssa Thomas hitting her with a shoulder check that didn't even get called as a flagrant foul. It's clear that some was off. We gathered all the major missed calls against Clark this season, and once you see them all together, it's easy to understand why fans.
It's just weird, and it's so interesting to me how still Caitlin Clark is getting under everyone's skin. Like, she so easily can get under the skin.
Did you catch what happened to Caitlin Clark in the playoffs when DJ Carrington literally poked her in the eye and the refs just stood there? It wasn't just a bad call, it was a perfect example of how officials have treated the WNBA's biggest new star all season.
It feels like a lot of these players and teams just hate the Indiana Fever, and I mean, I get it. This team was one of the worst teams in the league, and they are now climbing the ranks.
That set the stage. It's September 22nd. The playoffs are in full swing, and the Indiana Fever are facing the Connecticut Sun. The basketball world is watching as the rookie who's revolutionized women's basketball steps into the biggest game of her young career. With 548 left in the second quarter, everything changes under pressure from Carrington. Caitlin Clark passes to Boston after taking a shot. Carrington lunges for the ball, but instead of making a clean play, her fingers connect directly with Clark's eye. The moment is instant. Clark recoils, clearly dazed, her hand instinctively going to her face. You can see the pain written all over her expression. What happens next? Absolutely nothing. No whistle. The crowd waits for the call, but the refs stay silent. The game goes on as if nothing happened while Clark blinks away the pain, trying to get back into the flow of the game. Even the broadcast team couldn't hide their shock. They were stunned, calling out how Clark had just been hit in the face and how no foul was called. The disbelief was clear.
In pain after she caught that fingertip in the eye, or no whistle.
What makes this moment so telling isn't just the missed call, it's what happened afterward. Clark didn't make a fuss, she didn't throw her hands up or scream at the refs. Instead, she took the hit, already feeling the bruise forming around her eye, and kept playing. The physical toll was clear in her performance. By the end of the first half, she was shooting just 1 for 9, completely thrown off by the annulled foul and unable to define her rhythm.
There's nothing Indiana can challenge here because no call on the floor was made. Clearly not on purpose from Carrington, but also enough contact that it certainly could have been a personal.
Meanwhile, fans were far from quiet. Social media had exploded with outrage, with many calling it the worst officiated game in basketball history and a total embarrassment for the league. The clips went viral in minutes as viewers from all over the sports world couldn't believe what they had just witnessed.
You see the poke in the eye, and one of the areas that Indiana has first game of the season here in this building, Ryan, is when that blitz comes to Caitlin Clark, how she is able to deliver the basketball to Aaliyah.
What's truly frustrating is that this wasn't a one-time thing. The eye poke was just the tipping point in the season, where Clark was repeatedly targeted physically with no protection from the officials. Week after week, she took hard fouls, body checks, and aggressive defense that went well beyond competitive play and into dangerous territory.
They better choose carefully and choose wisely, because even though everybody wants to show out and support Caitlin Clark, I told you earlier, I think a lot of people are getting real close to turning the TV back off because the WNBA does not want to step up and take responsibility for this shit.
What's happening here isn't just the typical rookie treatment, it's something more deliberate, more targeted. Through it all, Clark has kept her cool, never blaming the officiating or complaining in post-game interviews. Despite the physical and mental toll, she stayed focused, continuing to play her game while the bruises piled up.
It's good. Kennedy Carter now, from Boston, as the officials are gonna and Clark.
What if you thought the eye poke with no call was bad? Just wait until you hear about the shocking double standard that's been going on all season. In one game, Clark gets a technical for barely touching the backboard after missing her shot, but just minutes later a veteran player shuts her from behind during a timeout and the refs completely ignore it. It's hard to believe the difference in how they're treating these situations. She may be thinking, look, if they're not going to call these flagrant fouls and they're going to let everybody in the league beat the crap out of me, I better do something to put on some ass to protect myself. The August 18th game against the Capitol Storm perfectly showed just how observed the officiating has gotten. After missing a free-pointer, Clark taps the padding on the basket out of frustration with herself. What happens next? The referee blows the whistle and gives her a technical foul. Even the commentator couldn't hide their confusion just stating Kittling. Clark gets key with a technical about, so the first one here is when Caitlin Clark got a technical for slapping the padding that is on the hoop. After the game, Clark explained what happened. I got a technical for basically being mad at myself because I missed the three and then I hit the backboard, and he told me it was disrespectful to the game of basketball. Can you believe that tapping some padding is suddenly considered disrespectful, while real disrespect was happening right in front of the same officials staying with her, preventing her from getting those touches, and Caitlin gets hit with a tech. She was joy for a while after that foul call on Aaliyah, but this one I think is about her frustration with missing that last. Later in that same game, Skylar D. Smith shoved Clark from behind during a timeout. This wasn't an accident or part of the game, it was a deliberate push right in front of everyone in the arena while play was stopped. And what did the officials do? Absolutely nothing. No technical, no warning, not even a recognition that it happened. While the fans booed in disbelief, social media erupted immediately. Fans were stunned, wondering how Clark could be punished for showing a little frustration towards an inanimate object while a veteran player could physically push her with no consequences. It's not just bad officiating, it's a clear pattern where rookies like Clark are held to impossible standards while veterans seem to get a free. I got a technical for basically being mad at myself because I missed the three and then I went and hit the backboard, and he told me it was disrespectful to the game of basketball. So I don't know, it reminded me of the technical that I got in college where I said damn it, where it's like a personal frustration, had nothing to do with my team, had nothing to do with their rang, had nothing to do with other team. It was just because I'm a competitor and I felt like I should have been making more shots. So but I think he fired me up to continue to play a lot harder. I thought we got a lot better after he did that, so I want to thank him for that. What makes this even more shocking is how officials seem to have different rule books depending on who's involved. Clark's minor emotional reaction gets flagged right away, but when it comes to protecting her from aggression, the whistles suddenly go silent. The disparity is glaring. Technical fouls are handed out to rookies like they're nothing, while veterans get treated with a level of leniency that almost feels like preferential treatment. The most impressive part, instead of letting this unfair treatment break her spirit, Clark used it as motivation. After receiving that ridiculous technical foul, she said, I think he fired me up to continue to play a lot harder. I thought we got a lot better after he did that, so I want to thank him for that. That's the mentality of a champion, taking something meant to punish her and turning it into fuel to perform even better. Me, because I thought that we were turning the corner when it came to the jealousy and cheap shots in the WNBA, especially when it's not a basketball play. But as you can see here, Caitlin Clark is walking off to the court, and Skylar Diggins, you can see her speed up and kind of dip her shoulder just so she can hit Caitlin Clark. Mind you, they are down 15-16 points with 10 seconds left in the game. Right here, the champion mentality was put to the test even more when opponents realized they could get really physical with Clark without facing any consequences. The Alyssa Thomas incident on August 28 against Connecticut wasn't just a hard foul, it was as salt disguised. Say basketball. Thomas delivered a shoulder check so vicious that it sent Clark crashing to the floor, leaving fans gasping in disbelief. You'd think with that level of contact there'd be an immediate review and a flagrant foul called. Right, wrong, the officials barely acknowledged it, calling it just a common foul. Even though Clark was left lying on the hardwood, the reaction online was immediate and furious. Fans weren't just disappointed, they were outraged, calling the hit not basketball and a cheap shot. But what happened to Thomas after that dangerous play? Absolutely nothing. No flagrant foul, no fine, no suspension, just business as usual. While Clark picked herself up off the floor, Kathy Engelberg continuing to let this kind of thing go on this season. It started turning some people off last season, and it's probably going to start turning some people off this season if it's clear they're not going to do anything about